Hey guys, it's Jess. Welcome back to my channel, and today's video, as promised, is a Q&A. A few videos back you guys asked me a bunch of questions. There were literally over 100 questions that you guys submitted, so thank you so much to everyone who put a question through. Hopefully I can get through as many as I can in today's video because there is a lot. So let's get started. Is there one specific place anywhere in the world that gives that magical, overwhelmingly happy feeling? Yes, that is a really easy one for me. It is Kiyomizu Temple in Kyoto. I love it so much that I have been there literally every single time I have gone to Japan. There is this beautiful balcony on the top of the temple that overlooks all of Kyoto, and the view is just incredible. That place is magical. If you ever get a chance to go to Kyoto, highly recommend going to Kiyomizu. What is your ethnicity? This is a question that I actually get asked quite a lot. So I am actually half Chinese and half Australian. Don't really speak Chinese though because I was born and raised in Australia, so I never really needed to learn Chinese. Sorry mum. But I also get mistaken a lot for being Japanese. Just yesterday I was at a cafe and the guy who worked there was like, oh, are you half Japanese? I guess the fact that I can speak Japanese and I am ambiguously Asian, I guess I get it. I kind of understand it. How much money would you recommend saving for Japan, and do you have any budgeting tips? This question actually came up a lot throughout the questions that you guys sent through to me, so I'll try and answer them all together. It really depends on what you want to do when you go to Japan. I have gone on super budget-friendly trips to Japan, and then I have definitely gone on the more luxurious side. And it also depends on what time of year you want to go to Japan, because Japan is one of those countries that does have a peak season. It is generally in March to April, specifically the 2 weeks that cherry blossoms are blooming. Everything is double the price in sakura season. On my most recent trip where I went solo, it was during sakura season. I set aside about $7,000. It was a 2-week trip, and I think I paid about $2,000 for flight, about $2,500 for my accommodation, but that's also because I was traveling alone, so I had to pay the full fee of the accommodation regardless of how many people were staying there. And then I also went on a day trip to Kyoto, which I think altogether was around $300. So they were the main expenses of the trip, but then there were also things like buying my metro passes and all of the train fares, buying food, whether it was out or eating in, and then of course any activities as well. My biggest tip for budgeting a trip to Japan would be to write a list of all of the things you want to be doing, decide when you want to be going to Japan, and that should give you an idea of how much you'll need for each part of the trip. Any tips on traveling alone? This question came up a lot throughout all of the questions that you guys sent through to me, so I think I'm gonna do a whole video dedicated to solo traveling. Stay tuned for that. How many times have you been to Japan? I have been to Japan 5 times. Yes, 5 times. First time I went with school and I did a homestay in Sapporo. Then I went with my family, I went with my boyfriend, I went with my best friend, and then my most recent trip was when I went by myself. I will probably go there many more times. Are the subways as intimidating as they look? It depends what time of the day you are getting on the train. If you are going during the morning rush or the afternoon rush or the last train, which I believe is 1 in the morning, you probably will be packed in like a sardine, but if you travel any other time outside of those times, you should be okay. I never really experienced an occasion where I was crammed into a train. Generally, I was always able to find a seat. Did you like the technologic toilets? First of all, the toilets that they have in Japan work just like a normal Western toilet. They just have a few extra functions like a bidet, which, you know, cleans your bottom for you. And I actually never worked up enough courage to use one until my most recent trip, and it was an interesting experience. I mean, there is one button that plays music while you're in the bathroom, so that's kind of nice if you're in a public restroom and you kind of get a little bit more privacy that way. But would I want one of those technological toilets in my home in Australia? Don't really have an opinion. Do you have any plans on traveling to other parts of Asia? Well, I've been to Japan so many times, I really should go somewhere else. I would probably like to go to China again because I do have family in China. The last time I went was about 10 years ago, and I'm sure it's changed a lot since then, so China is definitely on my list. Do you plan on living in Japan? Yes. One day. Japan does feel more like home to me than Australia does, so I would love to go and live there one day, whether that's for a month, a few months, a year. I'm definitely gonna make it happen one day. Have you got plans for another trip? Yes, I am heading to Japan again. Hooray! I am going there in Sakura season next year, so in 2019. Stay tuned, there will be Hi Jessica Anne in Japan season 3. If there's anything you guys want to see while I'm there next year, please leave it in the comments below and I can start adding things to my itinerary. What is the best time to travel to Japan? Like I mentioned earlier in the video, Sakura season really is the most beautiful time to go to Japan, but the only thing is, because it's so beautiful, everyone else wants to go there at the same time, so everything is very, very expensive. But another amazing time to go to Japan is autumn or fall. Japan gets beautiful in autumn. All of the leaves turn bright red, orange and yellow, and it is absolutely gorgeous. The weather actually isn't that cold yet. It is a little bit rainy, but honestly the sights are so worth it. Where is the #1 place you would recommend for everyone to go in Japan? 100% the place I always recommend to anybody going to Japan is to go to Kiyomizudera Temple in Kyoto. It is such a good area to go to on your first day. Because it's in Kyoto, which does have more of an old school vibe to it, you really do get that sense of Japan right from the get-go. There's a beautiful walk up to the temple that has lots of shops where you can get all of your souvenir shopping done straight away. There are lots of food vendors where you can try a lot of local delicacies. It is just such a great place to visit. Plus, if you're interested in trying on a kimono, there are also lots of kimono stores where you can rent one for the day and dress up. It is so much fun. I did it with my best friend Jess when we were there 2 or 3 years ago, and it was just such a great way to get some great memories of the trip right from the get-go. Did you learn Japanese by yourself? No, I actually studied Japanese all through high school. So from year 7 to year 12, I took Japanese as my second language and I absolutely loved it. It was actually through school that I had my very first trip to Japan. I did a homestay and study tour where I actually met Yuma, who you guys will know from my Japan vlogs. Honestly though, if you want to go to Japan and you don't speak Japanese, most of the main areas like central Tokyo, you won't really need to speak Japanese at all because most places will speak English. All the menus and signs and things will be in English, but definitely if you have the opportunity to learn a bit of Japanese before your trip, it will make your trip so much richer. So I highly recommend it. What is your favorite cafe in Japan? That's an easy one. It's Cafe Kitsune in Omotesando. They do really fantastic coffee. The atmosphere of the cafe is beautiful. It's tucked away as well in a back street of Omotesando, so it's never really busy. So it's a great place after a day of shopping or a day of walking around Tokyo to just go there and have a quiet afternoon coffee. Plus, as a Melbourne girl, good coffee really means a lot to me, and the coffee there is really good. Do you feel like you have more freedom solo traveling, or do you think it restricts you? That's a really interesting question. I think it really depends. I mean, on all of the trips prior to my last one solo traveling, when I went to Japan, I was always with somebody, with school, with my family, with friends, and you definitely have to cater for the people that you're traveling with. You don't have as much freedom to just go into the place because you might be following an itinerary or something. But things like costs or the time it takes to plan things is definitely hard when you travel with other people. But when you travel alone, you really can do what you want whenever you want. It really just depends on the type of trip that you want to have. I have experienced both sides and I love both. How accurate to real life is Persona 5's Tokyo? So I actually did a whole video on this. Persona 5, if you guys don't know, is a Japanese RPG video game that is actually set in Tokyo, and a lot of the places in the game look identical to places in Tokyo. I did a whole video where I visited a bunch of locations from the game in real life Tokyo and compared the two side by side. So if you guys are interested in that, I will put it up in the cards above so you guys can check it out. But yes, it is very close. What camera do you use to vlog for your time in Japan? I use the Canon G7X Mark II. It is what I'm filming on right now. I literally film all my videos on this camera and I love it. Have you ever traveled to Japan in the winter time, and do you have any suggestions for fun things to do while it's cold and snowy out? So Japan actually has a really great snow sporting culture, especially up in Sapporo in Hokkaido, which is the northern island of Japan. When I did my first trip to Japan, it was actually a homestay in Sapporo, and it was during winter because it was in December. It was absolutely gorgeous. I got to see snow for the first time, and the snow that they get there is super powdery and soft, and being in Australia, we don't really get to experience that, so it was amazing to see that in real life. So if you're into skiing or snowboarding or anything like that, definitely try and head up to Sapporo in Hokkaido and experience it for yourself, because it is just absolutely gorgeous. Or if you're uncoordinated like me, just sit inside and watch them doing it while having a cup cup of hot chocolate. What was the most stressful and hard part about going alone? Something you guys might not have seen was I was actually really nervous about going to Japan alone. I tend to stress and overanalyze things at the best of times, and I remember on the flight on the way to Tokyo, I was so nervous. I remember being on the plane and thinking, oh my goodness, what if I get on the wrong train when I land and I end up in some random place in Tokyo? What if I don't enjoy it? What if I have saved up all this money to go and solo travel to Tokyo and it isn't what I expected? I internalized things a lot. So I think the thing that made me most nervous about solo traveling was having to do things by myself, but it also opens you up to a lot of opportunities as well. What are your favorite Ghibli movies aside from Totoro, and do you watch any other anime or animated films aside from Ghibli? I actually love Spirited Away. That is a movie that I can watch over and over again. It is such a beautiful film. I also really love Howl's Moving Castle because how? Need I say more? This is something I haven't really talked about on my channel before, but I do actually watch quite a bit of anime. I used to draw a lot of manga styles when I was in high school. I don't really have enough time to do it these days, but if I have any of my old artworks around, I'll put them on the screen so you guys can see what they looked like. Some of my favorites that I'm watching at the moment are Boku no Hero Academia or My Hero Academia. It's just so good. Best opening theme song ever. My all-time favorite anime is Fruits Basket. It just has such a beautiful story, and I have the entire manga series in English and in Japanese. It's an oldie but a goodie. Oh, another one of my favorites is Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. That show is so badass. Specifically the Unlimited Blade Works series. If you guys like a good story and a good battle scene, watch Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. You will not regret it. I even have a little written on my keys. What are your favorite foods in Japan? It can be sweets or regular meals. I can't go past a really good piece of sashimi. I love all kinds of sushi. I love ramen. I love udon. I love all of the Japanese sweets. Like, oh my goodness, Harajuku crepes. Oh, yum. I'm getting so hungry just thinking about it right now. Do you mind sharing some of your most embarrassing moments while traveling? Well, there is one that comes to mind. So while I was staying in an Airbnb in Japan, the toilet wouldn't flush. So you can imagine my panic. I am at someone else's home and I don't know how to make the toilet work, and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I ended up having to Google like how to make the toilet work. I can't believe I just put that on the internet. Okay, next one. Where is the best place for cherry blossom viewing? One of the most famous places to go see the cherry blossoms is Nakameguro River. It is absolutely gorgeous. There are all of these cherry blossom trees that fold over the river, but because it is the most popular place to go and see cherry blossom, it is always really crowded. If you want to get a nice photo, you will either have to get there really early or change your plans. Shinjuku Gyoen, which is the main park in Shinjuku, is also a really great place to go and see the cherry blossoms. But again, it does get really crowded, so it's hard to get a picture without people in the background. If you want my insider tip, go outside of Tokyo. I went on an Airbnb experience to Tokorozawa in my most recent trip, and it was to the countryside. It's only about an hour or so away from Tokyo, and there are cherry blossom everywhere. And no people. I saw so many colors of cherry blossom that I hadn't seen before. There was like bright red, there was white. It was just absolutely stunning. How is it really traveling alone? Is there some time when you feel lonely and miss your family or wish you had someone by your side? Yeah, definitely, of course. Because I've traveled solo now and I've also traveled with others, it is a very different experience. And when you're traveling alone, there are definitely times when you see things and you're like, oh, you know, my friend would really love this, or my family would really enjoy this, and then they're not actually there to share it with you. I wouldn't say that I've ever felt lonely while I was traveling, but there were definitely times where you wish you could share what was going around with someone else as well. Have you bought another ticket to Japan, and will you go solo again for your next one? So like I said, I am going to Japan again in April, March next year, but no, I haven't bought my tickets yet because I'm still trying to work out exactly what my dates are going to be. I probably will be going solo for a part of the trip, but not all of it, because I will be spending some of it with my family as well. Would you ever consider moving to Japan, say for a year or so? Yes, 100% yes, I would love to move to Japan. So I was actually planning to move to Japan about a year and a half ago, but then I got offered a job that I just couldn't refuse. One of the things that I've always wanted to do in in my life is move to Japan, so it will happen one day. It will. What makes Japan special to you? This is actually a really hard question to articulate, but when I go to Japan, I just get this overwhelming sense of feeling happy. The kinds of feelings of stress or anxiety, I just feel like I don't experience them as much while I'm in Japan. The people are just so friendly and so nice. I don't know, it's just really hard to articulate. It's just the feeling that I have in Japan is so different to what I have in Australia, and I feel a lot happier there. Have you been to Fukuoka? No, I actually haven't. I have only been to Osaka, Tokyo, Kyoto, and Sapporo. So next time I go to Japan, I am planning on going outside of that zone and experiencing some other places. Fukuoka is definitely on that list. I have heard some amazing things about it, and I would love to travel there one day. What was your all-time favorite neighborhood in Japan? Oh, this is a tough one because there are some really beautiful places in Japan. I think if I had to pick a place to live in Japan, if money was no object, I would probably live in Omotesando. It is in Tokyo. It's more in the city area, but it's a bit more quiet and laid back. There's a lot of beautiful boutique shops. The apartments are absolutely gorgeous. So I would probably pick Omotesando. I was wondering if you do blogging or YouTube full-time, or whether it's a side hobby. YouTube for me is a side hobby. I do work full-time, but I absolutely love making videos and sharing my experience. Plus, being able to travel and then make videos of my journey is just such a great way for me to remember the trip. It's a great way to share my trip with my family and friends, and to also share it with you guys. It would be so much fun if I could do this full-time, but right now it's my side gig and I'm happy with it that way. What are your favorite YouTube channels? Oh, there are so many. I really love Kristen Yu. She actually did her own Japan series, I think last year, and the aesthetic of her videos is just gorgeous, and I really like her personality. I also really like Sammy Speaks. She's always super honest in all of her videos, and she's very entertaining. Plus her style is just next level. I also really love Best Dressed. Her style is amazing. Her music choices are amazing. She's so cool. You know? I also love Taylor R. She actually used to live in Tokyo, but now she lives in Hong Kong. She is probably the one that inspired me to make my own Japan series a few years ago. And then of course I love Jen Im because Asian girls represent, and who doesn't love Jen Im? Her style is impeccable. Do you have any tips or websites or places to find out about special events happening around Tokyo or other places in Japan, such as festivals, concerts, or pop-ups? I actually got a lot of ideas for my trip through Pinterest. I'm not super active on Pinterest, but if you guys are interested, I will link my Pinterest down below so you can check out my planning board, and you can see if there are any tips in there for your trip as well. If you're traveling to Japan, how long is it good to stay for? So I think typically 3 weeks is that sweet spot. I've always found that when I've stayed 3 weeks, I enjoy the trip so much more than when I only stay for 2 weeks. 2 weeks is just not enough time for me. I want more time though, honestly. Even if I only had 3 weeks, I would still probably want more time. I think that 3 weeks is perfect. It gives you enough time to go to a few different cities, as well as rest as well. You don't feel like you're rushing from place to place. 3 weeks. 3 weeks is good. What do you carry in your skincare bag when you travel? Moisturizers, moisturizers, moisturizers. I tend to bring a lot more hydrating products when I go traveling, just because the airplane can tend to dry out your skin. Plus when you're in a new climate, your skin can tend to go a little bit funny as well. So some balancing sheet masks or really rich moisturizers are typically always in my travel bag. And what would be your top 5 things to do in Tokyo? Ooh. That's a tough one. So in no particular order, I would go to Meiji Shrine, which is near Harajuku. It is a beautiful shrine which is in the middle of a forest, but in the middle of Tokyo City. And it's quiet and it's serene and it's gorgeous. 2, I would go to Takeshitadori in Harajuku. There are tons of cute fashion boutiques and restaurants through there. It does get really busy during the day, so I would go early in the morning, but it is so much fun shopping in Harajuku. I would go to Asakusa, which is famous for Sensoji Temple. It is a really big temple where you can make an offering, you can make a wish, you can also get your fortune told if you're into that kind of thing. Plus on the walk up to Sensoji Temple, there is this big street market where you can buy souvenirs. There are tons of street vendors doing local delicacies that you can try. It is so much fun walking around Asakusa. 4, I would go to one of the neighborhoods that is slightly outside of the main city area of Tokyo. So somewhere like Shimokitazawa or Daikanyama or Nakameguro, there are all of these beautiful neighborhoods that are a lot more quiet than the central area of Tokyo, and they all have their own distinct personalities. And at number 5, I would go go-karting in Tokyo, because yes, you can go go-karting in Tokyo's actual streets. It's a great way to see some of the sights really quickly, and it is so much fun. Highly recommend. When traveling solo, what are your top tips? This can include anything from safety to how to take some very aesthetic photos. Well, I'll talk about solo traveling in a separate video, but I can talk about taking aesthetic photos while you're traveling. So especially when you're traveling solo, it can be hard to get cute photos of yourself because you're kind of limited to just taking selfies, right? But this is where self-timer is your best friend. One thing I have also done is the camera that I'm filming on right now, the G7X Mark II from Canon, actually has this function where you can control it remotely from your phone. So all you have to do is set up your camera and then go stand or pose wherever you want to be, and then from your phone you can press a button that controls your camera and it takes the shot. This made my life so easy. What is your favorite way to document your travels besides your vlog? So the last 2 trips that I have been to Japan, I have always made vlogs for my Hi Jessica Anne in Japan series, but before that I would always create a travel diary. I think I actually have one in one of the bookshelves behind me. Let me have a look. Such a nice way for you to remember your trip, because you can keep all the little knickknacks that you find in this journal, and then you can read back over it to see what you did. Look at all this stuff. Got my Disneyland map in there and everything. Wow, a lot of memories are in here. You mentioned doing a top Instagrammable cafes in Japan, which I'm very excited for. Yes, that video is coming. Would you also consider doing one for Melbourne? That's actually a really good suggestion. Melbourne is known as the coffee capital of Australia, and there are tons of beautiful cafes around, so maybe I will do one. That's a really good idea. I'll add it to the list. Okay guys, so I think that's all of the questions I'm gonna go through for today's video. I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit. Told you there was a lot of questions, right? Thank you so much to everyone who submitted a question for me. I had a lot of fun answering all of these, and I hope, especially for those of you who want to go to Japan, that this video helped you with something in particular. If there is anything you want me to talk about more in depth, let me know in the comments below and I might film a dedicated video for it. But that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye.